Okay, here we are. We are back again. Another episode of the Booze Brothers. This is a podcast where we try to have honest, no fluff conversations about our various experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Mark. Yep, back again. So raring to go on another Sunday morning. And I think, as always, well, I'd like to say, as always, I don't know if it's true, but we have another good topic for you. So yeah, ready to get going.
Yeah, this is quite an interesting one, quite a big one, I think, because the sort of connotations of the term I always think are fairly severe when you mention it. And the conversation that we just wanted to sort of walk through and have today was, am I an alcoholic? And I think it's probably a question that a number of us, a number of people, quite a few will have probably ask themselves from time to time, shit, am I an alcoholic? And I think what's really interesting about this question is, kind of in doing the research ahead of this, and so sorry, I'm looking at some notes up here if you could see me looking at a different screen. It's the thing with this one is there's really no definitive way to define whether or not you're an alcoholic. And we'll get into the descriptions that are used and why I think they're so kind of loose and nebulous that it's almost impossible to ever be completely definitive. It's not like if you have high blood pressure, for example, you get a reading, it's 80 over 120 or whatever it is. And at a particular level, the definition is that you have, elevated or high blood pressure. There isn't really such a reading for alcoholism, but the descriptions that you tend to get, like I said, are fairly ill-defined, I think. So one of the definitions that, so alcohol, if he says, well, what is an alcoholic? One of the definitions that I managed to find on a fairly, well-known website is that an alcoholic describes someone who suffers from alcohol use disorder. The National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism defines AUD as a chronic medical condition affecting the brain and making you unable to control your alcohol use despite negative consequences on your health, work, or social life. Okay, so you go, well, okay, so that's a pretty reasonable definition. But then I ask myself, okay, so what is healthy drinking? Take the opposite view. Define healthy drinking for me. And then I think it gets very difficult, because if you take the sort of purist view, as we now know it, no amount of alcohol is good for you. So, a small drop of alcohol will have negative effects. So even if you drink one glass of wine a week, there is some detrimental impact to your health. Okay, it's negligible. It's virtually nothing. You could argue you would be, it's more unhealthy working in a city because you're breathing in, fumes, or you're taking a risk just by being a human. So maybe there's a sort of a level of risk associated with alcohol at a very, very low level, where it's just so trace, where it's so limited. It just, maybe there's an argument that says that the mental benefits of the enjoyment of the drink, the sort of ceremonial element to it, I suppose in some instances, if you're a connoisseur, the kind of the enjoyment of the process, if you're having one or two, then maybe that's healthy. But honestly, certainly anybody listening to this podcast, and in my experience, most of my social group don't just have one glass of wine. They have more than one glass of wine. And one of the other interesting things is, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but it talks about one of the most common forms of alcoholism is binge drinking. And I would have considered myself as a bit of a binge drinker. I could quite happily not drink. I could go days without drinking. But when I did drink, I tended to drink too much. And the definition for what constitutes binge drinking is 4 or more drinks for a woman and 5 or more drinks for a man. Well, if you live in the real world, and certainly in this country, in the UK, and I think probably in France, maybe the sort of session drinking isn't the same. Most people will drink more than 4 or 5 drinks in a sort of night out. That's virtually nothing. So then you get into the other sort of common characteristics that describe what is an alcoholic, and this is another one which I picked up from another well-known website. This is 4 common characteristics to describe an alcoholic. First one is physical compulsion or need. Without a drink, withdrawal symptoms appear. You have the inability to stop or cut down on drinking. Okay, I sort of get that sort of physical, mental disease, that compulsion, the physical withdrawal symptoms, which we'll maybe come on and talk about in a second. The next one is a mental obsession. You just lack the control to have, and have abnormal cravings or feelings of irritability in the absence of alcohol. Well, okay, I'll come back to that. Negative impact. Drinking causes or contributes to problems with relationships, jobs, and finance. Lying, hiding, or downplaying. You're dishonest with yourself and others about how much and how often you drink. The point of all of this is that, for me, if you're really honest, it's 90% of the people I know are alcoholics then. Pretty much everybody's an alcoholic. And the other part about this is, I was thinking about it, is the word alcoholic gets used differently in different contexts. So if you know someone who does a lot of shopping, like my wife, for example, it's quite sort of amusing to say, oh, she's a complete shopaholic, and it's a bit sort of, it's funny and it's a jovial term. But if somebody drinks a lot and he says, oh, he's an alcoholic, it suddenly gets quite dark. And and I think the reality of this is that where I get to, I think, with all of this is this thing about, is it causing you damage? Is it getting? I think it's very hard to argue that what I would call the sort of fairly routine social levels of drinking that we experience is not harming you. I see people that I know, friends of mine who drink, they're overweight because of it. They will be doing less exercise than they probably should. It's affecting their relationships. I can sort of see that, from a distance. I can see that there's a lack of connection, I think, sometimes, because there's always one person in the relationship that doesn't drink quite as much as the other one. So it's very difficult to argue that it's not causing a problem. The difficulty is that it's more pernicious. It's a pernicious impact. It's sort of slowly, I think, and this, it starts to erode the kind of fabric of the sort of framework upon which you base your entire life. That it starts.
It's a slow burner. It's a slow burner. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, you're not maybe that overt image of, you're not lying on a park bench in a pool of your own vomit, perhaps, but you are in this vortex of drinking. So, that was a long-winded introduction, but basically where I get to is, it kind of doesn't fucking matter whether you want to use the word alcoholic, whether you just want to say, I'm drinking too much. The point of this whole podcast and the point of everything we do is to really help people reevaluate their relationship with alcohol from a position of strength and from a position of clarity and from a position of connection. And I think the only way to do that is to stop for a period of time, or even for a long period of time. So let me stop there, Matt, because you've got lots to say on this as well, I'm sure. But yeah, it's a really, like everything with alcohol, it's a fascinating topic, and you and I can have endless conversations about it, which is at the end of the day why we decided to do these podcasts. So yeah,
100%. So I like you. I looked. Did a bit of research on this topic. I thought this was going to be kind of an easy topic. I thought it would be a one session hit and we would be done with it. But the more you look into it, the more information you find, the more I don't know. I don't even know where to start almost. So I think where I'm going to start is I too, as I said, looked up some definitions. Mine were slightly different to yours, and I think that's the thing, that there doesn't seem to be a one size fits all definition for two things: what is an alcoholic and what is alcoholism. So I kind of wanted to start off with those things that people associate with alcoholics or being an alcoholic, but actually at no point are they mentioned in any reference material or any medical journey or anything like that. So at no point does it talk about only drinking after 6 p.m. So, obviously, if you only drink after 6 p.m., you can't be an alcoholic. At no point does it say that if you only drink expensive wine, you can't be an alcoholic. And also, at no point does it say if you have a house, a home, a job, a family, you can't be an alcoholic. So I think, that's one thing that we need to just get clear, is there is no like hard and fast definition of what it is. I also think something that's really good is the term alcoholic and alcoholism is slowly disappearing. I think they talk more about alcohol dependence, misuse, or addiction. I think those definitions are fairer, because I think addiction is where, maybe there is a physical element to it, where you really have those people who have real problems, where actually it can almost be dangerous to remove the alcohol straight away. And then you have dependence. And I think one thing I did find about dependence, which I thought was really interesting, was it said a doctor may diagnose alcohol dependence when they see two or more of the above symptoms based on an ongoing pattern of how you use alcohol. Usually, this is based on behavior over the last 12 months or more, but alcohol dependence could be diagnosed based on continuous daily or almost daily use of alcohol over a period of at least 3 months. Well, like you, that covers many people, millions of people. So, how do you define it? And I think what you said earlier is the real key to this, which is, you know, you know, if you sat down in front of a doctor, he should almost ask you the question, do you think you have an issue with alcohol? Do you think you're drinking too much? It shouldn't be how much you're drinking. It shouldn't be, what are you drinking? It should be, what do you really think? Because most people know, they tend to ignore it. They tend to use the excuses. They use well, I don't drink until, after 6 p.m. So, that doesn't, I'm not, as you mentioned, the whole park bench thing. I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. Look at some of the famous people that have had issues with alcohol: Brad Pitt, Samuel L. Jackson, you've got Ben Affleck, the list goes on. They're not, I don't think I've ever sat on a park bench drinking alcohol. I don't know, maybe they have, but we've got to get rid of this sort of image, and that's important to me. So what is it? You to me, it really is. And if I look at my own experience, I don't think there was ever a physical dependence. It was a mental dependence. It was a habit. I'm reading this book, I think you've read it, Atomic Habits, and it talks about how habits are formed. And it really was that. It was part of my identity. It was what I did. But I knew that I was drinking beyond the limits, that are supposedly safe. And even now, those are being questioned. I looked at the UK Chief Medical Officer's guidelines, and it says it's safest not to drink more than 14 units a week on a regular basis. I mean, 14 units, if you look at it, is nothing. If you look at that, then I would argue you've got half of the population in the UK probably who are drinking above safe levels.
I mean, the thing about also, if you cover up your drinking or whatever, you sort of there's I think your mind immediately goes to, oh, somebody who's sneaking bottles of vodka at work during the day. But like most people I know, when they go to the doctors and they're asked about their drinking, I think there's even a report on this. I think it's like 90% of those are inaccurate. People are not truthful about them. And I think another interesting thing about the word or the term or word term, whatever, alcoholic is another sort of downside of this word is where it gets used as almost a bit of an excuse. I've read about this where people they will detach from their responsibility of being accountable for the drinking by saying, "Well, I can't help it. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic." They define themselves as somebody that has almost no ability to change this. And the thing about the whole "is it a disease" debate, and I know we've both got thoughts on that. The
Mm.
thing about any level of alcoholism, even physical addiction where you may need to sort of you can stop doing it. There is a way out of it, and
Yeah.
and most of the time it's complete abstinence. And I just think that where I get to, and I've said this on previous podcasts, is it's a very, very simple equation. There's a value damage equation.
Mm.
The damage that this is causing you more than or less than the value that you're getting from it. And you actually do know that. In your soul, in
Yeah.
your gut. You might not be ready to admit it. You might not want to admit it. I have plenty of conversations with people where they say, "Look, I don't want to give up completely. That would be unrealistic. I just want to reduce the amount of alcohol that I take." And then you get into what is it that alcohol gives you that you are so desperate to retain? What does it actually give you that you are? Yeah, go on. Sorry, were you gonna?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I was just thinking. It's kind of mad. We've been through this before, but as you talk, I'm thinking in my mind, and it's true. So, what you said is, oh, I just want to cut down. And how many times have I spoken to people about this? And you know, people say, yeah, but I'm not drinking in the week now, or I only drink one night in the week. But then it's like, so when you hit the weekend, all you think about, all you can wait to do, or your whole excitement around it's Friday is I can have that drink. What is that if it isn't some sort of dependence, in my opinion? And I don't think we need to use the term alcoholic. I don't think we need to talk about alcoholism. I think those words are strong, and actually, we don't need to use those. But people just need to think about, hang on a minute, I maybe got a bit of an issue with this.
Mm.
Is this catching me out now?
Yeah, I think
Because
I think if you've ever thought that, you have. That's the answer. That's the reality. I don't think if you thought it maybe once in passing and it was a glancing thought, and it's never really occurred to you again, and you've never really had problems. You've never woken up feeling terrible, hungover, tired. I think, even just like I see people of my age and ask me to say that, "Oh, I just spent the whole day in bed on Sunday. We got pizza." Basically we just vegged out. And it's sort of described in a way as if to say, that's okay. And I think,
yeah, it's just it's only one day.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a day. And I think to some extent where I get to in the end, and maybe just to sort of draw a close to certainly what I want to say on this, and we can pick this up, is that it really depends where you are in the world and where you are in life, and really what you want to do and who you want to be in this world and what you want to achieve and kind of where you see your life going. And if you have a desire to live a more connected, productive life with maybe purpose. Maybe there's things that you want to do, that you want to set an example, maybe to your kids, to your wife or husband, or just to yourself. You have to really evaluate where alcohol sits in that picture. And I've got nothing against people drinking alcohol. Trust me. I think it's absolutely, I think there are certain situations and certain people and certain cases and maybe certain times. I think we've had this conversation. I think as
Mm.
youngsters, I almost feel like, yeah, go and have a few drinks, like enjoy yourself, experience that. I hope it doesn't turn out bad for you. I hope you're able to kind of keep a lid on it. But maybe it's just part of growing up. But I think there's certainly a point where you get to a time where you maybe reach a certain age and you will want to reevaluate it for lots of reasons: health, mental health, etc., etc. And that's really the question: is is it giving me more than it's taking away? And if it's actually taking away more than it's giving, stop doing it, because the alternative is amazing. And we've talked about this so many times. We're changed people, both you and me. We
Mm,
are more
completely.
productive, we're more connected, we're happier, we're financially better off, we are physically better off, we're mentally better off, we're just, the list is almost endless. And so I want that for everybody. I want that for everybody. And that's really, in the end, it doesn't matter. If you want to say I was an alcoholic, fine. We could say, was I an alcoholic? If I asked myself that question, was I an alcoholic? Well, if I were to take a literal definition from any number of the ones that are available online, then I was an alcoholic, because
Mm,
I drank at a level that was harmful, and I did it repeatedly, even though I knew better. So I was an alcoholic. But at the
yeah.
end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you call it. I knew it was counterproductive for me. It was getting in the way of all the things I wanted to do. And when I took it out of the way, guess what? I achieved all the things I wanted to do. So, pretty simple equation. It's simple, but maybe not easy.
Yeah, the same. I think I just, for me, I don't think you need to associate yourself with an alcoholic or with alcoholism. I think it's a personal choice. I know lots of people who choose to do that. I think it has a bluntness about it. I think some people, in a certain situation, if you're being sort of bothered or like someone keeps, offering you a drink, you just go, look, I'm really sorry, I'm an alcoholic. Then bang, at least it's clear, But I would say that no one needs to put that tag on themselves. Like you said, if you're drinking too much. You maybe hit those internet searches. You've looked at, is drinking a bottle of wine a night too much? You've looked at how to lose weight. You looked at, why do I feel like this? But deep down. And I think as well, you can just do what works for you. Sometimes people will question me. It could be a work thing. I could, not be drinking. This is the madness of it all, really, is that you do have to give an answer. And isn't that crazy? But I'll often say, oh yeah, I used to drink. I turned pro when I was young and I retired early. There's things like that you can say. It raises a smile and people will just accept it. But you know are you an alcoholic? Are you suffering from alcoholism? The main thing is not to worry about those questions. The main thing is if you think you're in a situation where by not drinking life could be better, and actually drinking is interfering, then seek the help you need. Keep watching us, keep listening to us. There's plenty more people out there. Go and seek medical help. It is out there. And I think you really, that's where it all starts. And I think the moral of the story is that yes, there are definitions. Yes, there is a medical side to this. Yes, you can talk about alcohol use disorder, you can talk about dependence, addiction. I do. In my book I talk about it. But the reality is it's all about, how do you feel at the moment? Do you think that your life could be better without alcohol? And the thing is, a lot of people would say yes. Some people will then follow up with, but I'm not ready to do that now, or I can't do that. But there has to be a want as well. For me, it was a want. It has to be the thing you want more than anything else. And until that want really becomes apparent, then it becomes very difficult to stop. And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck. But yeah, it's a really, really interesting topic. Love to have your thoughts and comments on this one. But we'll probably expand it and talk about this again, no doubt.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely. Well, look, as always, we've gone on much longer than we expected to, but that's just because there's just so much to say on it. I think we will leave it there. My final thing is, it isn't easy, but it's possible, and there's lots of help. And try it, just try it. And that's the thing. Never, as we always say, never quit
Yeah,
quitting.
exactly.
You know,
Get one day under your belt, get 2 days.
yeah.
Try and fill your time with those days. Don't just go, oh, I'm not going to drink tomorrow. Plan your day. Do something nice. Do something different.
Mm.
Maybe there's a cinema trip that could be had. Maybe there's a theme park you could go to. Maybe think about what you would have spent on alcohol and maybe use that money for something else. Take your kids out, do something, fill that time, especially the time when you normally drink. If it's the evening, go out in the evening, but go out somewhere, do something non-alcohol related, and that really is the thing. It's about triggering different habits. It's about, working on what you can do instead of those habitual sessions that you have where alcohol is involved. And yep, it takes a bit of work, but Christ, honestly, if you'd seen us a few years ago, we could do it. I'm sure you can too.
Brilliant. That's a great place to stop. Well said. So fantastic. All right, awesome. Thanks everybody for listening. Please do all the usual things. If you could, we'd appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do whatever, press all the buttons. That's very helpful. And until the next time, never quit quitting. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.